And, you know, we start, I think, this process of dealing with that anxiety by just recognizing it, right? But recognizing that this is normal to be so disrupted and emotionally confused at this moment. You know, I think that one of the small silver linings of this unique moment is the chance to acknowledge our humanity, to be more vulnerable, to support each other, no matter where we are in this strange moment. I had a friend who's a senior executive at Facebook actually post online, you know, she's just brilliant together woman. And it started, I am not okay. I'm a mess. I'm confused. The work I do on a daily basis seems, you know, almost meaningless. And I just want you to know that you might see a cute picture of my dog, but in fact, I'm really not in good shape. And I think that's okay. And I think if we just allow ourselves to sit with that and be self-reflective, allow each other to be human, we may find at the end that this has been a really powerful process for all of us. I loved this quote from Dr. Ahmad at the University of Toronto, suggesting that now more than ever, we must abandon the performative and embrace the authentic. Our essential mental shifts require humility and patience. We need to focus on real internal change. These human transformations will be honest, raw, ugly, hopeful, frustrated, beautiful, and divine. And I was really moved by that, and I think that there is beauty in that turmoil and the possibilities for how it can transform all of us. So, goal for the workshop, just some new insights and practices that you can use to survive, to try and be more effective during these times, and hopefully to pass on these ideas to people you care about and your team members. A couple of truths we're working on. Number one, we can't always control the stressors in our lives. And accepting that we can't control those things is step number one. Step number two is that our reactions are normal. It would be strange if we all felt comfortable. And so again, kind of giving yourself permission to be a mess and knowing that everybody else is kind of a mess too is also helpful. But most importantly, that there are things that we could do, very simple steps that we can take to achieve some level of calm, some sense of security, and to make our lives a little easier through this process. So a roadmap for the session. We're going to talk about how to bring curiosity and compassion to understanding our anxiety, go through some daily practices that are very effective right now, especially. We're going to talk about the vagus nerve, which I always think is kind of like the secret that nobody knows about. And it's like a magic pill or a magic button that can be enormously helpful. We're going to talk about helping your team and how you can use these same strategies and share them forward. And then I'd love to just kind of hear from all of you about what's working for you, what haven't we talked about that you're finding helpful in these moments. So the first piece I wanted to talk with you about is just accepting and bringing compassion to this sense of anxiety that we're all feeling. You know, our anxiety is a manifestation of that same fight or flight reflex that has kept us safe, right? It's sort of a gift of our evolution that we have this system, this very complex physiological system designed to keep us safe from harm. And although we have evolved over time, we no longer need to fight off tigers, although even that is an interesting metaphor these days. But those same embedded physiological structures and processes are still in place to help keep us safe. So one thing that is useful to remember, that if we can accept that these systems are helpful for us, then we don't fight against that anxiety. We can sort of understand it and appreciate the fact that we have these systems that keep us safe. It's also useful to just understand how they work physiologically, so that when you are in those moments of panic, when you are feeling particularly lost, or your head is spinning, or you're sweating, or like many of us, you can't sleep. You know, my insomnia is crazy right now. When you're in those moments, you can understand physiologically what's going on, and then shift to, well, given that evolutionary process that's now working right now, what can I do to be responsive? So we know that the amygdala is part of this system, right? So it's the kind of warning center that detects potential dangers and then initiates this flood of activities and responses designed to keep us safe. Things like our heart rate's increasing, adrenaline levels increasing, muscles tensing, cortisol, which makes your stomach feel badly. And all of those reactions are designed to give us the tools, you know, to run away or to fight or to kind of be at our most pumped up and active and prepared when it's a physical stressor, but they can really get in the way of being okay when it's really an emotional stressor that's triggering that reaction. So first step is understanding that these reactions are normal. Like it's a good thing that we have these things, but that a lot of these processes, these physical responses, are not helpful to us in moments of kind of more complex emotional trauma. So we need to accept them and then move past them. So given that, once we sort of, you know, can acknowledge that these are helpful physiological processes, what can you do to kind of move through them and move past them? So I wanted to talk about five techniques that will really help you get through the day. The first is to start each day with a couple of steps. If you begin with a step that shifts your thinking from that kind of animal, you know, reptilian brain designed to keep you safe into a process that's using that frontal lobe that you have into some sort of higher level thinking, you will necessarily replace those experiences of anxiety and stress with something that takes up that thinking room. So if you try beginning the day, the first thing that you do when you wake up, focus on identifying one thing in your life that makes you smile, that makes you feel good, that literally will bring kind of a lighter glow to your face, to your eyes. You can almost sort of feel that softening that happens in your face when you're thinking about something that brings you joy. Maybe it's a memory that you have, or maybe it's something from the environment, the sun coming up over a mountain. Maybe it's your pet, or a success that you've had recently, or somebody that you love and something that they did for you. So it can be and it should be a very personal thing. But if you kind of begin the day with that experience of gratitude, then you'll have a much more kind of frontal lobe, grateful presence to begin the day. They also, as you know, have discovered that we can trick our body through physical movements to then experience the emotion as an after effect. So many of you may have heard about those experiments where they have people put a pencil between their teeth, which automatically kind of makes you use those smile muscles. And just using those smile muscles will actually trigger feelings of happiness and calm. So if you can actually bring something to mind that makes you smile, then you'll have more of that positive experience. The second thing to do right now is to make a plan to minimize the negative sources of information that make us worry. So one of the things about anxiety is that it tends to operate in about the past and about the future. We obviously can't undo the past, and we can't possibly know the future. So to the extent that we can keep ourselves in the present and managing our present selves, we'll have a much better time. you know, I find that there are kind of two sets of people coming to programs around anxiety right now. There's the group of people who have a lifelong history with anxiety management. So you know very much about how debilitating anxiety can be, how stress can sort of take over your mental processes. And, you know, you've developed over the course of your life some strategies to deal with that. But now, I mean, we're just sort of throwing everything at you, and managing anxiety is even harder. There's another set of people who are interested in anxiety management right now because they've never really felt it before. They're sort of even keeled on a regular basis. And, but suddenly, you know, that normal kind of calm has been it's just evaporated. And so you're kind of coming to this topic with like, I've never even felt this way before. I can't focus. I'm feeling confused. I can't sleep. And one of the things that we can try and do is keep the focus on the present. What can you control right now? Giving yourself back the power. So it's important to stay informed, but to the extent that you can make a plan for how much time you're going to allow yourself to learn about the news, watch the news, pay attention to social media, so that it doesn't end up sucking you into that sort of vortex of worry and concern. The next thing, and this is a piece that has really resonated for me, and I know within our CMC community, this is sort of a natural impulse, but again, if we can turn our thinking to a higher order process, and right now, more than ever, asking how we can be of service. The number of unmet needs and the crises going on are just so monstrous, and each one of us can do something to be of service. And if you wake up at the beginning of the day and you make that a priority for yourself, how can I be of service? And you commit to some small way. I mean, it's possible that your whole day is about being of service, but to the extent that you can sort of focus on that and make a plan, it will also kind of fill up that space that might otherwise be consumed by worry, and allow it to give you kind of meaning and direction. I find when I'm working on, you know, something right now that has a service component or is, you know, focused on service, my thinking gets clearer. I'm more energetic. I'm, you know, I'm more calm. I'm more effective, and it's those kind of meaningful activities that can, you know, that can help us through. This is really important, and we were talking about time as this session was getting going, and you know, in some ways it feels like we have a ton of time, we have our whole day, but then we get to the end of the day and we think, well, wait, you know, how did I actually spend it? Did I spend it very intentionally? It's really, really important to make a plan for self-care at the beginning of the day. So thinking about how you're going to eat and nourish yourself, nourish your body. How are you going to move, right? Just to sort of get all of those positive endorphins and brain chemicals circulating through your blood, lots of oxygen to keep yourself healthy. And self-care can include things like doing puzzles with your kids, or, you know, taking a walk, or taking photos of beautiful things outside. It can include anything that really brings you joy, that lets you be creative. But it's really important that you build into your daily plan ways that you will take care of yourself first. You know, the overused metaphor of, you know, putting on your oxygen mask first before you put one on your children. It's overused because it's so accurate, right? We have to take care of ourselves in order to be effective. And especially right now where our concern is around a health issue, this can be really powerful. I did want to mention that serotonin levels come into play, especially when we're in moments of anxiety. And they've shown that if your serotonin level gets low, it's a lot harder for your brain and your frontal lobe to manage emotional reactions. So the more you can kind of eat regularly, don't let yourself get too hungry. Combinations of poultry and carbs will help elevate your serotonin levels. And that will give you, again, more resources to be effective in managing your emotional roller coaster, you know, that we're all on. And again, just sort of this overriding concept that if you feel that fight or flight, reptilian brain taking over, worrying about the future, kind of amping you all up, intentionally choose a different higher order process from your brain to focus on. That can be curiosity. I wonder why is my tree dropping leaves right now? Or, what is my community doing, about food distribution, using sort of curiosity as a focus, because that is higher order thinking that will pull you out of the cycle. Solving problems, creating ideas, painting, developing a new product idea, looking at your business processes, solving issues that have been on the table for a while. Anything that kind of takes you into that, human, spectacular frontal lobe thinking will really, really help tamp down anxiety. This is really great too with time and investment in yourself, because this is a time when learning new skills, taking online classes, deciding to figure out how to do that project in your garage that you've been putting off. These are really, really great ways to redirect our brains. Oh yeah, there's my little brain pictures, right? So we've got this sort of brain stem that's operating when we've, when we're hijacked, our amygdala is hijacked. But if we can use this part of the brain with language and abstract thought and planning, we'll move out of those less helpful physiologies. One last point, one more tip about how to calm down when we're feeling super anxious. Actually, I wish I could see the grid of everybody right now. How many people, just sort of show of hands, know about the vagus nerve? Does that ring a bell with anybody? I grew up with a mother who was a neuropsychologist, and she was, we spent a lot of time learning about brains and neuroscience in our family, and I'd never heard of the vagus nerve. And so when I learned about this, I thought this is just sort of a spectacularly helpful resource that we can use to calm ourselves down. So, back to that biology lesson from high school and college, we've got the sympathetic nervous system, which is our muscles and kind of how we do things, and we activate, our systems to get things done. But it's paired with this beautiful parasympathetic nervous system, which is like the calming part of our nervous system. And the 10th cranial nerves, there's a pair of them, they're called the vagus nerve. And they're basically like the switch for our calming system. So, you ramp up and you run your marathon, and then when you get to the finish line, your heart's racing, all of those systems are pumping away, and it's really that vagus nerve and the parasympathetic nervous system that says, okay, time to calm down, time to relax, and get back to the static, basic process. So we have this system built in that can help us calm down. The funky thing is that just like the pencil trick, where you kind of put the pencil in and it'll make you smile and therefore feel happier, we can do the same thing with the vagus nerve, which is really, really cool. So it kind of runs down, you can sort of see, it sort of runs down from the back of your head, it kind of wraps around your ears and into your mouth and sort of down, not surprisingly, around your heart, and then down kind of into your stomach, in front of your diaphragm, and in each of these places, it's designed to sort of take in information, to kind of feed out information and help your body calm down. So knowing this, there's some really cool things that you can do intentionally to calm yourself down. If you splash water on your face, cold water, right, that actually triggers that vagus nerve and will start calming you down. Singing makes the vagus nerve vibrate in your throat. So not surprising that choral music can be very calming. Singing can be a calming exercise. Babies that rub their earlobe, that's because the vagus nerve runs through the ear and it's a calming sensation. Another weird one is if you hold water in your mouth, this is a great trick before you have to do any public speaking. hold water in your mouth, kind of just underneath your tongue. And it will trick your body to think that you're not kind of short on saliva. And again, all of those kind of systemic processes will calm down. The best one though, and I know I'm running out of time to pass on these tips, but the best one of all is to use that diaphragmatic breathing where you're kind of, you know, you can sort of hold your hand on your stomach and feel pushing out the stomach and the base of your lungs, really filling that bottom part of your lungs. And the reason that works to calm yourself down is that vagus nerve runs in front of your diaphragm. And so as you breathe really slowly and push that out and calm yourself down, kind of get centered and grounded, it will start that, that process that calms everybody down. So some really, really cool, some cool tricks physiologically using our kind of mental thinking and intentions. And I want to talk about how we can apply these to your teams. I know we're kind of getting short on time, so I just wanted to kind of stop and see if anybody had any thoughts or questions about these strategies so far, whether you've used any of these, do they seem to work for you? Any questions? Anything?
I have a question.
Yes, great.
You were saying that we had 5 techniques, and I think I got run out of one. You were talking about each morning planning to take care of yourself during the day, what you're going to eat, the activities that you're going to make that you can make to feel creative. Was number 4 use curiosity as a focus, and number 5 solve problems?
Let's see. The 5. Just trying to think which you mentioned that I didn't. So I have the how can I be of service, kind of that focus. The gratitude, kind of identifying something with gratitude, making a plan to minimize how much news you consume, how much bad news and Twitter and sort of the social media firestorm that can really be upsetting. We can't shut out all news, but we don't want to have too much of it. So even setting a time window, like, okay, I will watch you know, the news or read articles for, you know, between 9 and 10 or between 5 and 6 p.m. Kind of managing that piece. Is that all of them? Did I get them?
Yes,
and then,
I think I have all of them.
Okay, great. And I mentioned earlier, I'm happy to share this deck too, if anybody wants these slides. I believe that we're recording the session, but I'm also happy to email anybody these slides. I have lots more information that I can share with you as well. So you know, let me know if it's helpful to have more.
And how can I get your information? How can I? How do I send you my email so you can send me your?
Yes, if you would sign into the chat, and if you would like a copy of the deck or more information, just put your email address in the deck, or frankly, if you have identified yourself, we can probably find your email, but easier for us if you just include your email address. And I should have started, I don't know how many of you saw any information that indicated who I am and why I feel like I can talk to you about these things, but I have a conflict management consulting practice. I do mediation work. I work with organizations that are in conflict or going through sort of rough times to help them unpack what's up, what's going wrong. Is it a communication problem? Is it a misalignment around strategy? Is it kind of aftermath of a trauma? And do a lot of executive coaching as a part of that as well. So a lot of the people and teams that I end up working with are going through some pretty anxiety-laden times. And everybody's experience of anxiety is different. Different things work for different people. But there are some consistent strategies that work with individuals, over time that I've seen to be really effective. So we can definitely give you more information, and if I can be of any help furthering my goal of being of service, especially right now, please let me know. I would really be happy to do that. So
Thank you.
I know we called this session for a half an hour. I am very happy to keep going. I'm sorry that we've run a little bit long, but I did want to talk about, if you can hang around a while, how you can share some of these strategies with your team as well. I mean, they really are just sort of applications that we talked about at the individual level. But with respect to the team, the first thing that you can do is, as a team leader, be human, right? Acknowledge that you're feeling vulnerable and uncertain and nervous. I think in this moment, the more that we can all be authentic, sort of back to Dr. Ahmad's quote at the beginning, if we can be our authentic selves, we will connect and be one and help each other a lot faster. And then, correspondingly, to the extent that we can create spaces for our people to share their own experiences, their anxieties, their frustrations or worries, especially in ways that allow people to help each other. So often with businesses, we don't spend a lot of time thinking about how we can help each other personally, but this is a strange time. And to the extent that you can use your resources as a team to allow people to help each other, community is a very powerful way to get people through a crisis. I think that to the extent that you can come up with a team rallying cry, to kind of, again, unite everybody behind something that can be done in the moment. You see some businesses repurposing business units or, keeping staff on and then sending them out into the community to be of service in some resource. Or even if it's just a rallying cry to, you've got a team that would normally be selling a product, but instead, you recircle and it's about reaching out to customers and asking how you can be helpful to them in this moment. Anything that will give kind of a short-term mission and purpose, ideally consistent with your larger corporate or organizational mission. But it's important that it's, context specific and that it responds to, the issues of the moment. And if you can rally people around something together, they'll feel like they're not alone as much and be a lot more productive. The other thing that you can do is sort of go through the daily practices that we talked about and adapt them for people in your team too. So even morning check-ins where people share something that they're grateful for. All right, if you're shifting towards virtual team meetings, if you give space to let people share something that they're, a good thing that's happened to them or something that they're grateful to, the whole group will benefit from that. If it's about using that higher level thinking, right? Maybe you create an opportunity for people to do some problem solving together, to do some planning and use that higher level function. That will also keep people focused and productive and out of that like spinning, terrifying anxiety cycle that we all can find ourselves in. Any other things that you have discovered working with your teams or your families, your community, other practices that you found that have been helpful for you right now?
Laura, John Ferranda here. Thank you so much. This has been really good. I hadn't focused on why I was doing this, but since this started, I've kind of been doing the crossword puzzle every day. Mm-hmm. I do a little in the morning and a little in the evening, and I think it really is giving my brain something to think about beside all of this.
Yes, I've been doing it too. I was never a crossword puzzle person, and all of a sudden I do my crossword puzzle every day, and it's a moment of peace.
My mom did it every day. I never did it.
Huh. Yeah, that's so funny you say that. I've had the same experience.
Laura, something that has, I think, been helpful for our team is we have an online platform that we've been using to work together. It's called Slack. There are a lot of them, but it has a feature that you can just push the little phone and then do immediate face-to-face calls. And then you can just add someone else in and the three of you can see each other. And just the ability to see each other's faces without having to go in and, set up like we're doing here a Zoom call, which requires a pre-registration. So using a platform with your team that just with one click, you can see each other has been really nice for us.
Wow. That's such a great suggestion. And it's really true. Right now, there is peace and comfort in seeing people's faces, just being there together as human beings rather than, emails and texts and chat, for sure. I love that. Anything else? What's been the hardest part? What's one of your kind of challenges, or if you're willing to sort of share what you were hoping to get out of today, problems to be solved?
For me, the hardest thing is to have my two kids away. My daughter is in Madrid, and Juan Diego is at Claremont. So as a mom, it's quite difficult when you see all the world and all the paranoia going around, and me sitting here in La Paz, Bolivia. It's hard.
Yes, it's really hard. And I think we've all kind of taken for granted our family's safety and security, until now. And we're all worried about our parents and our children. And my children are grown and not in my city. And I really, it's almost like I feel like they're small again, and it's not hard not to have them physically with me. So I know exactly what you're saying. I know other friends who really haven't even, they check in with their parents and have social gatherings, but haven't really thought about their parents' health and safety and security. And now it's all they can think about, just sort of, how can I keep my parents safe? Just really new experiences that are so challenging.
Exactly. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I take some comfort in the fact that we're going through this experience now, rather than 10 years ago or 20 years ago, where we wouldn't have had Zoom and we didn't have the chance to do FaceTime with our kids, and that sort of constant, you can argue that we get too much information, but it's useful for me. I feel like if I had to go through this 20 years ago, I would be in a much greater level of panic. But these resources that can help keep us connected. And that's what we're hoping with the CMC community, that we can use these platforms to stay connected and to support each other. I'm mindful of the time. Is there anything anybody else would like to share or questions? Again, if you have any, if you'd like any additional information, leave your email. We do encourage all of you to join the new community Facebook page too. There'll be information going out with a link to do that, but you can search CMC community in the Facebook groups, and that will help you join in. Anybody, family, faculty, CMC students, alumni, we're all part of one big community. So we hope you'll join that new page. Okay.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much, everybody. Thanks for sharing
Thank
this
you, Laura.
topic. And
Thank you, Laura.
Stay safe, everyone.
You too.
Yeah, very
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks for helping, Jeannie.
No problem. So we do have one email here.
Great. And I received a few that were sent to me privately too. So I'm printing,
Okay.
I'm printing the chat.
Did the woman from Bolivia send you her email?
I believe so. So let me print this out, and yes, we can make sure everybody gets the information.
Okay, hold on. Whoops. Let me stop recording.
Great. Let me end